Is Dead Rabbit Radio, everyone's favorite paranormal podcast, mentioned in the Epstein files? Take a look at a crazy story. Like, wow, get to that one right away, Jason. That sounds insane. And then we travel to Nicaragua to take a look at the story of what happened when a group of villages found themselves under attack by the Sandinistas. They knew that they could very easily get wiped out by these armed thugs, depending, so you might like the Sandinistas, but anyways, by these armed thugs, aka freedom fighters. So is there any truth to the rumor that they turned to black magic to save their people? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. Hope you guys had an awesome weekend. We got a ton of stuff to cover today, so first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Conspirasam. Woohoo! Woo! He's running on into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Sorry if that chair was a little muted. I have a hypodermic needle in my mouth. I'm about to take a shot. Very busy today, so I'm going to take my GLP-1 shot while I'm recording. That's how busy I am. I have to do both. I'm trying to pour an entire vial into this syringe, so I've gotten pretty good at it. Conspirasam is a supporter of the show, and he also shared his Spotify Wrapped with his social media followers. That is why he is going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially, I totally understand. I really, really do. Just do what Conspirasam did. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Once I messed up one of these shots, if you can believe that, you're like, yeah, Jason, I can see that happening. I messed up one of these shots, and I bent the needle. Oh, that sucked, because I had to put it back in me with a bent needle. Here, let me inject this real quick, make sure it's got the right dosage. Yes. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. And poke. If I pass out on this recording and it somehow gets uploaded, call a doctor. What? Damn it! I broke the needle again. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Conspirasam, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to go ahead and toss you. Let's go ahead and take the hot air balloon. I don't think we've used this in a long time. Everyone climb on board as Conspirasam lights up the oxygen tank. We're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Why don't you glide us all the way out to Epstein's Island? Whee! Like, Jason, maybe ditch the wee part of that sound effect. If we're going to Epstein Island, Conspirasam has taken us all the way out to Epstein Island. Now, just for full disclosure, I did a take of this story. It ended up 30 minutes long. I don't really want to talk about this for that long. As important as I think it is, it's a really, really interesting story and a bit of an update. I kind of have to do this as well, and I want to talk about it. So what has happened in the past couple days? This is really interesting. Obviously, the Epstein files have dropped. People are pouring through them. And if you will remember, this was a long time ago, July 2nd, 2020. An anonymous person posted on 4chan saying they were a personal security / driver for the Epstein organization. It's this long narrative. I'll obviously have a link to it in the show notes. You can read it yourself. We covered it back on July 2nd, 2020. When it first happened, we covered it that day. And it's this story about this man who says that he worked for the Epstein organization, and he kind of talks about, he found himself trafficking drugs, he found himself trafficking underage women, and eventually gets to the point where he has to find some entertainment for a party being held by Rihanna. This is all alleged, obviously. Lawyers, calm down. He said he had to get party favors for a party that Rihanna was having because her concert had just recently ended, and he was directed to go find young men and women, quote, the younger the better. So he went to malls, he picked up some mall girls, he met some boys, and he says he went and got some escorts as well, but they were all legal age. And he got in a lot of trouble for that. He was only supposed to bring people who were underage. And he said people who were attending this party were, again, allegedly John Travolta, Justin Bieber, the Jonas Brothers, Emma Stone, Bradley Cooper, all of these people he recognized, Lady Gaga. He also says that he was there when a undercover journalist / YouTuber, blogger, something like that, He wasn't entirely for sure. He was there when this person was caught trying to go undercover, and him and two other people, well, he says he didn't do it, but he was there when two other employees murdered this unidentified journalist and buried his body. He posted all of this on 4chan. He said that he was going to kill himself shortly. He wanted to get all of this stuff off of his chest. He put coordinates, GPS coordinates, as to where the body could be found. It was somewhere in Colorado. 8 hours after posting this on 4chan anonymously, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested. And it was a big news story. You had two big news stories. First off, the mainstream media, the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell, who'd been on the run for quite a few months at this point, was arrested. But in the conspiracy theory community, on the X board and 4chan, people go, oh my God, this guy posted this narrative, and 8 hours later, Ghislaine Maxwell is found and arrested. When I covered the story, I said, again, it was just hours after Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested is when I put my episode up. I go, I don't think the story's true. Could be, right? But it's easy to make all this stuff up. We'll never know. Well, a couple days after I posted that episode, somebody saying that they were the Anon who posted that story on 4chan contacted me via my Dead Rabbit Radio Facebook page, telling me they had indeed made the whole thing up. And they were terrified at the timing. He goes, I had no idea that I'd write this story, and then a few hours later, the second in command of this gross conspiracy would be arrested. It actually scared him. So at that point, I go, well, I thought the story wasn't real. And then I reported on what that guy had told me. I never gave the person's name or their Facebook account or anything like that. I'm keeping my sources private. Even to this day, I won't reveal who that was. And that was that. An interesting story. Definitely could have been true, but maybe not. Well, fast forward to 2026. And there was a Reddit user named LividAd5980 messaged me and says, look, you were wrong. The security story was correct. And I go, well, I responded back. I said, well, we don't know if it's true or not. Definitely it could be. We always knew Jeffrey Epstein was a weirdo. Could be, but I don't think so. It turns out, and thank you, LividAd5080, longtime listeners of Dead Rabbit Radio know, I will admit when I'm wrong, and I will admit when I might be wrong. Because we still don't know for sure, but it turns out LividAd5980 sent me over links from the official Department of Justice Epstein drop. The FBI investigated this 4chan post. They took it seriously. On July 27th, 2020, someone tagged FBI and Donald Trump on Twitter and said, you need to look into this story. It talks about a murder and it gives coordinates in Colorado where a body could be buried. There is an official FBI report showing that they got that tweet and it went to an analyst who read it. So the algorithm picks it up. They go, we look for anything that has certain keywords, murder being one of them. It got forwarded to an analyst. An analyst read the story and then forwarded it to an agent. And the analyst said in their notes regarding the story, it's, quote, too specific, detailed, and horrific to ignore, unquote. There are then screenshots of a YouTube channel run by some guy named The Chasseur, aka Chass, where he did a story, I think it was on the 7th or the 9th of July, 2020, so it was after we recorded it. We reported it the day everything happened. And then we did a follow-up, I believe, saying, yeah, this guy contacted me, and he says that it's not true, but I didn't think it was true in the first place. This YouTube channel called The Chasseur did a video on it. It's like a text-to-speech video. The YouTube account shows that it's coming out of Nigeria. Screenshots of that YouTube channel are included in the Epstein doc leak, as well as screenshots of the comment section of this YouTube channel. And that's it. We don't see what the FBI actually investigated. Technically, we don't see that an investigation was done. We just show it was forwarded to an agent. And someone was posting screenshots. Someone was taking screenshots of this channel and including it in the FBI documentation. Now, if you look at all of these pages, at the bottom it says subject to protective order paragraph 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, and 17. And what that means is The stuff that we're deleting and the stuff we're not including at all is regarding this part of the file means that it involves private citizens who most likely have nothing to do with any crime or connection, right? The chasseur was not part of this conspiracy theory. He just took the 4chan post, posted it on text-to-speech. The person who submitted the Twitter, someone tweeted about it originally, their personal information isn't in there, their IP address. There are those things listed, but it's all blacked out. So when they put this subject to protective order and then these paragraphs, a lot of times it's a private citizen who has really no connection to the case at all, or it's an ongoing investigation and there may be details they don't want to release because something's still going on, so on and so forth. It may give up the identity of an agent or a witness that isn't supposed to be revealed, so on and so forth. So this is really interesting. This is really, really interesting. I still don't know if the story's true or not. But the FBI, at least that we know of, an analyst flagged it to send to an agent. We know that. There have been 3 million documents dumped from the Epstein files. A remaining 3 million will not be dumped, is what the Department of Justice has said. Some of it, apparently, is videos of murder and torture and rape. Are these videos of the rich and powerful committing these acts, or are all these videos that he downloaded from 4chan or the dark web? It had nothing to do, technically tying him into anything. He was just downloading this stuff, Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know. We don't know if it's original content. We don't know if it's just him downloading stuff from the internet. We don't know. Department of Justice isn't going to release it either way. The remaining 3 million files may have a very detailed account backing up this Anon's story. And for whatever reason, they're not releasing it. It could be because they're still doing an investigation. He mentioned multiple people in his narrative, not just Rihanna and Justin Bieber, like people he worked with. It's possible the FBI investigated it and they went to this dude's house because we learned that. This doesn't come as a shock to really anyone, but most of the people who use 4chan or websites like it, you're not anonymous. They have also gotten IP addresses of people who posted about the Epstein case online on 4chan and visited them. There was a prison guard who said he believes the bodies were swapped out when Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, supposedly killed himself. He posted that the day Jeffrey Epstein had died. The FBI found out who that guy was, got his IP address, visited him. He actually was a prison guard, or jail guard might be a more accurate term, but who was working at the same institution where Jeffrey Epstein was at. So they can find out who posted that. There's a chance that they found out who this anonymous guy was, may have been the same guy who emailed me. And they talked to him, and it turns out he made the whole thing up. It turns out that he's actually a clerk at Abercrombie & Fitch, based in Arizona. He's never been anywhere where this story has taken place, and because it was just a private individual making something up, they're not going to put him on blast. They're not going to put all of his information out there because he was making it up, and none of it was real. That'd be one reason why we don't know anything more. The other reason could be that they investigated it, or still investigating it, and they don't want to tip anyone off. They don't want to say, well, this name, we're talking to him. Possible they contacted this Anon, and it turns out he actually was, at one point, a private driver / security. I think the story started off in New York. It was somewhere on the East Coast. We don't know. But I wanted to include that detail because this is a story that, I don't know if this story is true. Here's the thing. I still don't know if the story's true, but as of right now, I'm less sure that it was completely made up. I originally go, it's made up. And here's the thing. You can make up a story about awful people, and parts of it are going to sound true. I mean, if I told you that I met Bill Cosby at a Diddy party in 97, and everything was super weird, you're both a bunch of creeps, I could post that story anonymously, and people would go, oh, no, that makes sense, because we know they're creeps. We know Jeffrey Epstein was a creep, even before the Epstein files dropped. Could be real. I'm less sure that it was fake now than I was a week or two ago. I do wonder two things. One, who emailed me? The person who emailed my Facebook account, because I had already done the episode and I was talking about the episode on the X board. I was looking for more information, and that's when I got an email from this guy. Was it someone completely unrelated to the case? Which would be interesting because if you were trying to troll me, you would troll me by trying to convince me it was real. Not trying to convince me it was fake. If it was just an anonymous troll, it's possible, unlikely. Was it a federal agent? Was it someone who worked with the Epstein organization who's trying to cover it up? Was it the Anon himself who indeed made it up? Or was it the Anon himself who was now trying to limit the damage? Because now you have a podcaster, I don't want to toot my own horn, but a pretty big podcast, pretty big paranormal conspiracy podcast, talking about it and then publicly posting about it. The 4chan stuff's just going to disappear into the archives, but now there's an episode out all over Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube and all this stuff talking about this. Who contacted me and what was their motivation? I don't know. And this is what I meant by in the intro where I said, who knows if Dead Rabbit Radio... We covered this story before the Chasseurs site, and we've done so much Jeffrey Epstein stuff over the years, pretty much from the day he died. I don't think the podcast was in operation when I know it wasn't in operation when he first got arrested in 2013. He might have been dead when the podcast started, but we've done dozens of episodes, not dozens, a dozen episodes on Jeffrey Epstein over the years with really weird finds each time. Jeffrey Dahmer's personal blog. I think I had Jeffrey Dahmer's email address. We were posting that in an episode. We've talked about all of the money he put into virtual worlds and AI and all that stuff. We've talked about things that the mainstream media wasn't connecting. That FBI machine that's constantly harvesting data. They used to call it carnivore. I don't know if they've changed the name, but basically everything you say near a phone, near a computer, near someone else's phone, near an ATM, whatever, gets recorded and thrown into this giant machine that looks for keywords, and if it hits the right keywords, it goes to a human to look at. So it's not just me recording this podcast, it's every time the podcast is played, it would be setting off these watch machines, these carnivore-type programs. Now, I looked, because if you type in the Chasseur into the Epstein files links from the Department of Justice, it pulls up about 10 pages, and I'll put them all in the show notes. It's mostly just screenshots of his channel. At the time, Dead Rabbit Radio was a bigger channel than the Chasseur. The Chasseur now is a bigger YouTube channel than mine. They have 100,000 subscribers now, but they haven't posted for 3 years. So some people think that they got silenced. I don't know if that's the case. I think that's a long time period between revealing the truth and then getting silenced. 3 years is a long time. You just kind of get bored sometimes, or it doesn't take off the way you want it to. You change hobbies. Or it could be buried in some unmarked grave. I don't know. Jason, are you jealous? No, trust me, I'm not. But it's odd. We covered it first and we had a bigger audience than the Chasseur channel. I wonder because I searched the Department of Justice website for Jason Carpenter, for Dead Rabbit Radio, I put in episode titles, nothing. So that means we're not in the Epstein files at all, which is a good thing, or it's possible that we are part of the 3 million that have not got released. Why? I have no idea. But I think it would be weird if we're not in it at all. Good that we're not in it at all, but weird because of all the content we've talked about and how many times it gets played and brought up. I wonder if we're in the 3 million. Now, not everything in the remaining 3 million is terrible. That's just where they decided to stop sending stuff. A lot of it is. You know what? And let's say that I'm obviously putting on my conspiracy cap. Let's say, because I did enough conspiracy theory episodes about Jeffrey Epstein, there was an email communication between two people saying, hey, can we get this channel shut off? They're getting real close to the truth. Truly a pro of the conspiracy world? I don't know. I don't think that's it. We may not be in it at all, but it would almost seem like the feds weren't paying attention as much as we talk about it. It's a good thing we're not in it, but it is odd that we are absent from you. Jason, quit saying we. It's you. No, it's we, man. It's we. You're the one who sent me in all those requests. Talk more about Jeffrey Epstein. Crazy. Crazy stuff. Apparently, Congress is going to be able to read the Epstein files, the unredacted ones. I don't know if they'll get to see the 3 million that haven't been released, but they'll be able to see the 3 million that have. Unredacted, those are going to get leaked real soon. And I want to talk about this too. I wanted to address that. I recovered a story. I may have covered it wrong. And this new information, definitely want to get that to you guys because you know me. This is a living show. Things change. Information changes. The other thing I wanted to do was on a recent episode, I said, if you want to make me mad, tell me that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. And then, that probably came out wrong. Obviously, I'm willing to hear more information. I just don't want these people to be deified or turned into Freddy Krueger, that he's still alive at 80 and he's hanging out with Elvis and Hitler in Argentina. Because then it just heightens their power. Then apparently someone's using his Fortnite account. Because we know what his username was. We can see what he bought, what movies he was watching. Apparently he was a big Fortnite fan. Someone's using his account right now. Now, Epic has come... That's not just a conspiracy theory. Epic, the owners, the developers of Fortnite, have come forward and say, no one is using Jeffrey Epstein's account. It's a fake account. Someone changed their name to troll people. Other people... I'll put all this in the show notes, but other people have said, no, it's Jeffrey Epstein's account because you can watch him play the different seasons, and then there's like a jump where he doesn't play a couple of Fortnite seasons. And I haven't been able to confirm this, but they matched it up to the time he was in jail, which I think was like 8 months or something like that, 10 months. And they say after he released the account starts playing Fortnite again. The account's gone private now. You originally could look at the public stats. It's gone private just in the past couple days. Some people say Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. He's living in Israel. That's where the account shows that it's being played from. I personally don't think he's alive. I could be wrong. I think he died in that prison cell. I could be wrong. I think he possibly could have killed himself, but I think he probably was forced to kill himself or someone killed him. Even a new couple frames from the night when Jeffrey Epstein died have come. There's still so much information coming out about this story. I'll put all that stuff in the show notes. But this is something I mentioned on a recent episode as well, and we'll end the Epstein stuff with this, then I want to get on to my other story. I said, do not let this black pill you. And what I mean by that is you still can investigate it, you still can question it, you can still follow the trail. Blackpilling means you can still research it, you can still go through these files. I'm not at all telling you guys to ignore this stuff. Because it is important. It is important. Is everything in the Epstein files true? I don't know. I don't think so. Like I said, I think 60% of it's probably true. 40% of it is people sending in emails. Everything gets recorded, everything gets cataloged, and it all gets lumped together, and people go, it's all true because it was all part of the same dump. I don't believe everything I see in the Epstein files, or anything coming from the government, honestly. But let me play you this YouTube I came across. Or not a YouTube, it was a TikTok. From a user going by the name CELE2T3. There is a language warning on this. Obviously, I know a lot of people listen to this at work. Listen, man, you talk about living dangerously. Listen to the podcast at work. There's going to be cussing. The whole clip's maybe about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes long. But I think it's important, so I'm going to play it in full.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, Professor. I'm so sorry I didn't turn in that activity. I know it was really important that I learn about Punnett squares, and I'm sure it was really informational, and I would love to get that done. But unfortunately, we all just learned as a species that every single important person in the last 50 years or so is a cannibalistic pedophile. Do you hear what the fuck I just said? Did that register at all? All of your celebrities, all of your politicians, all of your multi-million and billionaires, they're fucking and eating kids. They're eating kids. They're eating kids. They're eating kids. How the fuck is nobody upset? They're eating children. Not just Weird Dan down the street. The president, several presidents, not just of this country, of others. They are kidnapping. They are systemically selling children into sex slavery and then cannibalizing them. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to what the fuck I'm saying? We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. But all the people that have over $1 billion are sacrificing babies to an ancient god. I am not suicidal. My mental health is fine. I have a loving family and a great support system. I am not gonna hurt myself or anybody else. But you need to fucking open your eyes. Oh, it's just a lot to handle. Well, yeah! Well, yeah! Well, yeah! Because every important person and people you've never fucking heard of are raping and eating kids!
Now, here's the thing. It's really, really interesting because I think how she is reacting to this is how a lot of people are reacting to this. And it's very hopeless. It's very hopeless. Now, I'm not saying not to believe this stuff. I'm not saying that none of it's true. But what I'm saying is don't let it make you give up hope. This is what's really interesting to me, because I've seen people in my real life have this type of reaction like this girl, not so animated, but... And you see a lot of people online talking like this. And it took me a while to figure this out. Everything, and me and you, we're kind of on the same level, right? If you listen to Dead Rabbit Radio, this is not your first conspiracy. If you listen to Dead Rabbit Radio, this is, and it is designed to be an upper-level college course in the paranormal and conspiracy world. It is not for beginners. That's why we don't talk about the Bermuda Triangle. We don't really talk about the Loch Ness Monster. We don't talk about a lot of the very basic, although still exciting stuff, right? I'm not saying those stories suck. I don't like sea monsters personally, but we cover the weirdest of the weird, the strangest of the strange. This is not our first conspiracy theory. But imagine if this was. Imagine if you never believed in the Satanic Panic. Imagine if you never had heard of the Illuminati or really thought anything about it. You would never looked into 9/11. Imagine if you'd spent your entire life that if you heard something that was even possibly a conspiracy theory, you just dismissed it out of hand. And then this shows up in your TikTok feed. This shows up in your YouTube algorithm. This shows up in newspapers and websites that you've been going to for a long time. Imagine if this was your first conspiracy theory. You'd go nuts. And this is something that I started to key in on. I go, this is the first time, like when someone was kind of freaking out about it to me, or just reading something online, I go, this is the first time they've ever even considered that this was a possibility. Now, you and me, we know about the Finders cult. We know about major newspapers in the late 80s tying boy prostitutes, underage prostitutes, to the White House and Congress. I'll put all of this stuff in the show notes. These were huge news stories that people just said, it's a conspiracy. That's not true. A whole town, a whole small town being run somewhere in the middle of America, and the elite of that town being tied to ritual sacrifice. Baby X. Put that episode in the show notes. People hear that, you start telling them the story, and they go, that's fake, that's Satanic Panic. None of it happened. Well, I'm telling you this. If Epstein and all of these people can be tied into it, then sure as the sun rises tomorrow, a mayor, a police chief, and the head of the homeowners association could do it too. And they never believed any of those things. They all seemed, they never really even considered it. It's not like they sat down and looked at all the information and weighed the pros and cons. They heard it was a conspiracy theory, so they never looked into the actual tunnels that were found under McMartin Preschool, which was the set-off, which really set off the Satanic Panic in America. Imagine if you didn't know any of that. Now, here's the thing. I don't believe every Satanic Panic story myself, but I do believe there were small towns and continue to be small towns run by psychopaths who believe they're getting their power or their riches or whatever from darker forces. I 100% believe that because it's happened too many times around the world to completely dismiss. But imagine if you didn't know or believe any of that, and then this happens. You would lose your mind. Like that woman, like that young girl says in this video, she goes, everyone, they're all part of this. Now, I don't believe everyone's involved, and I don't believe that all of them are eating kids or trafficking kids or having sex with kids, but a lot. But it was the same amount who I thought would be doing it today as I thought would be doing it a month ago. My worldview has not changed at all because of this. Whether or not these documents would have been dumped, I still would have got, oh yeah, no, there's all sorts of these pedophilic elite Satan-worshipping groups out there. It's not everyone, but there's a lot of them. And up until a month ago, people would go, that's insane. But now they know it's real. And I really think it's affecting the psyche of people all over the world. This is huge. And I don't think I really understood how big it was because it was stuff that I already believed. But I'm watching people's worldview change. People who didn't believe in any conspiracy theories. People who openly mocked the idea that the elites could be doing anything other than just be greedy and cheat on their wives. Now they're faced with the possibility that these people may also be cannibalistic child rapists. And this is their first time really considering any of this. It's really interesting. If you look into it, you know how the Republican Party came to be, and I'm not supporting one party over another, but I think this is worth noting. Do you know why or how the Republican Party came to be in the United States? It didn't start off as the Republican Party. It started off as the Anti-Mason Party. The party's goals were simple. We had one goal: to remove the political, social, and cultural influence of Masons in America. It's weird. It's not just that they did that, but like one of their candidates went missing and they've never found him. This was all like mid-1800s. And then eventually they ran a couple president campaigns, I think 2 or 3, and then the nation kind of go, this anti-Mason thing, maybe it's not that big of a deal. And then they morphed into the Republican Party. And I'm doing a speed run on it. Obviously, I kind of would like to do a whole segment on it someday. I really just got to go into it. It's a fascinating story. I just know how interesting it is to tell. But we could be looking at another moment like that, where you have an entire generation of people around the world who are looking at it far differently than their parents and their grandparents ever did. Will we see a new political party arise out of this? Will we see just, open shootings in the street? People going, that Luigi dude shot that healthcare executive and everyone loved him. I'm going to go shoot a satanic pedophile. I'm not saying this, FBI, but someone could say, I'm going to go shoot a satanic pedophile. How would that not be considered just violence in their mind? What's worse, a guy who runs a healthcare company who, does cheat people and, raises rates and all that stuff? That sucks. But who's worse, a healthcare executive or a dude who eats and rapes children and is a billionaire and screws over the little guy and probably owns half of the healthcare company? I'm not advocating that at all, obviously. But I also haven't lost my mind in the past week. I lost my mind 30 years ago when I started researching this. I've been following satanic panic stories since I started researching conspiracy theories when I was 12. When I was reading books about secret societies, cults. So this is not new to me. This is just, I wouldn't even say it reinforced it because I already knew it was true. I knew there was people at the top who were disgusting perverts, did all sorts of horrific things. You'd have to prove the opposite to me, and you never could. So this is just like, okay. It's interesting because that's been my view on these files. That's why you may go, Jason, I thought you would take this a little more seriously, because to me, it's finding out water is wet. And what I didn't realize was to millions, billions of people, this is new. This is shocking, it's brutal, and they never even considered it. But if I figured it happens. Sometimes on a small scale, sometimes it's a small town, sometimes it's a global scale or an international scale, but it didn't shock me at all. And I didn't consider that for most people, that's not the case. They have never considered anything like this before. After this episode, if I come across any more big Jeffrey Epstein stuff, we're just going to have to package it as its own podcast, because I don't want Dead Rabbit Radio to just become Epstein stuff. I do think it's really interesting, and I think it's important. I think the conspiracies are important, and I think the way it's affecting people's mental health is important. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying don't investigate it, but please don't give up hope. I'm also not saying that you hope for a machine gun or you hope for some sort of violent uprising. I don't know how the problem gets fixed, but I don't believe that's it. I don't believe that's it. Maybe there just needs to be a wave across the world, a new political movement, or just acknowledgement. Find out who these guys were. Congress is going to know who they are soon enough. All this stuff's getting unredacted. It doesn't have to be violent uprising. I get the urge to want to shoot cannibalistic pedophiles in the face. Trust me, I do. But I don't think that's a long-term strategy. I know it sounds like, Jason, if they really are cannibalistic pedophiles, like, how can you negotiate with these people? Listen, man, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is don't lose hope. That's really what I'm going back to. Don't lose so much hope that you just can't function in society, because I'm starting to see that. And that's not good for anybody. Not for the person suffering from this black pill, not for people around them, not for the world in general. I don't know how this is going to get fixed. But what I do know is that I wanted to cover this because it directly affected the show, because it was something that I'd said on a previous episode. Turns out I could have been wrong. So that's why I wanted to talk about that. Do a little follow-up stuff. If any more big Epstein stuff comes out, I will put that out as its own podcast / episode. I'll figure something out, because I really want to get back to the paranormal stories, which this is what I'll leave on. Conspiracy Sam will have you back for one more episode. Type the word, if you want to get real trippy, if you go to the Epstein files, the Justice Department website, type in the word paranormal. There's a lot of talk about ESP and a lot of talk about the law of attraction between these ultra-powerful people. So, I mean, there's there's 3 million documents to pour through. There's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to say we're never going to cover it again, but I don't want to do another full episode on it. We did that last week. We did this now. But really, looking at this recording, there's nothing I really want to cut out. I think it's all pretty interesting, compelling stuff. It's stuff that I wanted to say to you guys. And we'll resume regular operation tomorrow. And then again, if there's another... This I felt needed to be talked about because it was something that I'd said on a previous episode years ago. But I probably will start the Epstein Files podcast. What I have envisioned is doing a separate podcast where it's me and someone else talking about it. But I just don't know logistically how that would work. I've been thinking about people here in town, but they either aren't following the case or they've lost their mind. It's like in the mouth of madness at this point. Maybe I'll do one remotely, but it's almost something that I want to do with someone and then just go, okay, you edit it and send it back over here, and I'll release it as a separate podcast feed. I don't want to do any more editing or stuff like that. So I'm considering that. I don't know. But anyways, sorry that we've now done 2 Epstein episodes in 2 weeks. But again, it does seem to be blowing people's minds. And I've been very just like, oh, this is the same thing I've been talking about for decades. And I didn't realize that this is the first time people have ever even considered this. So it's affecting them differently. But which is interesting and sad at the same time. So I know this wasn't the best, most uplifting episode coming in after a weekend. I don't have any funny news to talk about that I could squeeze in the end here. It's just horrific, right? It's horrific. It's not a super fun topic to talk about, but it is important and it is interesting. I hate that is a term I keep using. I wish none of this ever happened. I wish none of it ever happened. And I remained the lunatic conspiracy theorist to believe stuff that wasn't real. But it turns out everything from Pizzagate, I mean, we'd been saying this stuff for years. I'm not doing an I told you so. It's almost like I was warning you, I was giving you a buffer. I never thought all this information would come out, honestly, but we've been talking about this for years. We're a bunch of crackpots and lunatics. I wish that I was a crackpot and a lunatic. I wish all that stuff wasn't real, but now it's stuff that I knew was real is being exposed, and the problem is there's millions and millions and millions of people who never even thought in a million years this could possibly be real. And now they see it being talked about on the front pages of major newspapers. It's almost on the level of alien disclosure, I feel, how people are reacting to it. People are shutting down emotionally. They're having breakdowns because of it. And I've seen that happen. Big moment in human history, really. deadrabbitradio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at facebook.com/deadrabbitradio. TikTok is @deadrabbitradio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.